Hello, everyone. My name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about Before the Birth of One of Her Children, written by Anne Bradstreet. Now, before I go into summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and/or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. So, this work by Anne Bradstreet is very interesting. What we get from this work is Anne Bradstreet pretty much telling us about um, her experience of childbirth. Now, this is a poem, and in the lines of this poem, Bradstreet is pretty much telling us that death is inevitable. Everybody's going to have to go through death, and death is something that you can't avoid it, you can't run away from it. Everybody has to die. And she talks about how, the strong ties, the strong bonds that we have in life, death is the thing that can rip it apart. And when we think about the bonds between a husband and wife, even the bonds, even the physical bonds between a mother and a child, when you think about a baby, when the baby's in the mother's belly and how they're tied together, they're essentially one being, and even those bonds after the baby's born, that flesh bond of being being created in the mother's belly. Once the baby is born, all those cords are disconnected. Even, think about the umbilical cord. The baby is separated from the mother in the physical form and even in the emotional form one day, in the human form, in the spiritual form. In our daily lives, we have all these ties and bonds, and ultimately, the knife that cuts them apart is the knife of death. And that's something that Bradstreet has to think about, and it also has to think about death and reality and the way that we live and the way that we exist, because we all know that life is uncertain, and at any point, death can come about at any point. Especially, when this work was being written, women died during childbirth. Women died a lot during childbirth. It was very common for women to die in their early 20s, late teens, as soon as they got married. And some women died a year after being married, because as soon as you're about to have a baby, there's all types of complications and all types of reasons why babies die and mothers die. Life expectancy um, was not good. It was not good at all. This is in the 17th century. This work was published, and it's a time where women died from childbirth, and she's thinking about this. She's a young woman thinking about this, that she might not make it. She might not even ever get to meet her baby. And so she takes the liberty within this poem to write to her husband and to say goodbye to her husband, to wish him the best, and to remember her and his memories, or to all of her loved ones. In fact, her friends, her loved ones, her family members, everybody you could think of. It's kind of like a poem, a letter, even we can say, to her baby, to the world, to other people, to us, to say that we cannot escape death. It's irrevocable. You can't overcome it. Everybody has to die. Everything, nothing is forever on earth. This world is temporal and it must end. And so this poem brings us into the edge of reality and makes us think about existentialism, about our place in the world, about where we're going, about our spirit, our souls, our body, and our place within this world. So this woman is thinking about, what's next, why is she here, in the life that she's held, and how she's going to lose a lot, and even the people who are going to lose her, the consequences of that. Because when somebody dies, there's so many ties that are broken, ties with loved ones, ties with friends, and the emotional pain, the physical pain that takes people, that happens to people when people die, because it's not something that's easily overcome. Because when you've been someone with 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, especially in this work, because again, people didn't live that long in those times. So 20, 30 years, 40 years, these people roughly know each other, and then they disappear. Now today, if we put it into our context of the 2023 context, people are living to 60, 80, 90, over 100. And so if you know someone for over 50 years and then suddenly they die, I mean, you've known that person for half a century, then that person just dies. It's not something that you can get over. It's not something that you can get used to. It's not something that you can easily just brush aside. And so she's talking about these ties, and this poem is still relevant to this day, because we all have to deal with death every day. We all have to think about death. We all have to think about where we're going after death. So this poem has us thinking about life, our lives, and you know where it goes. And so this is more impactful, to think about who death is affecting, how you can overcome it, the consequences of death, the things that will happen after death. I mean, will her husband get remarried? What's to happen to her? What's to happen to her ashes? How people are going to remember her. And she talks about that. She talks about her memory. She wants the good things about her character to be remembered and all her faults to go with her to the grave. That's something that she talks about within this work. And so it's also, this poem is also shedding a light upon the things that we should cherish, because the thing is, like, it makes childbirth, it makes children, it makes life, it makes religion, it makes loved ones, it makes marriage, it makes all of that more important, more interesting, and more significant when you're not living that long. Because again, in the 17th century, people were not living that long, and so you had less than 50 years to live. And so, you know, you're 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years of life, and pretty much dying in childbirth. So a lot of women within the century, you know, you're dying at 18, 19, you know, within your 20s, because, you know, there weren't high-tech procedures in hospitals that can save a woman's life while she's giving birth. I mean, even still today, in 2023, around the world, a lot of women die while giving birth. It's still very common for women to die while giving birth. And again, a lot of women give birth in their 20s or in their 30s. Well, that's pretty much the age where, you know, because most people, you know, pretty much everybody has children between, you know, 20 and we would say 40, maybe even we can stretch it to early 40s. Some women have had kids, but generally speaking, you know, that 20 to 30 age range, though, that two, you know, two decades, your 20s and your 30s, that's when the majority, the vast majority of all women on this planet have given birth. And well, that's where the vast majority of mothers who die while giving birth, that's around those ages that they die. And that's still very common. So imagine a woman is only living 25 years, 30 years, 32 years, and you're dying while giving birth. And so it's a very scary thing that your life is coming to an end, that it might come to an end while giving birth. Now, she doesn't know that she's going to die by giving birth to this baby, but it's something that is very present. And even if she doesn't die while giving birth to this baby, she's also saying that death could come at any point. It's not a sure thing that you'll live or die. Anything could kill you at any point in time. And so this is a lot to think about before giving birth, and she puts a lot of thought into it. She says her goodbyes. She gives us her existential belief and ideas about life, about reality, how things can be taken from you, how important our ties to this world is, how important our tie to one another is, to our loved one is, and also, you know, remembrance. How are people going to remember you? This is why she says, you know, my faults, let them die with me, and then the things that are good about me, please remember them. So in this poem and this letter, we can say she speaks to the reader about life and death, and the consequences of life and death, and when people die. She says goodbye to her husband, and her thoughts of how she feels about her husband. She talks to her baby. She talks to her friend. So it's a letter to society at wide, in the personal sense. Yes, this is a very personal letter, but at the same time, I think it does speak to a wide audience. I think this is why so many people love this poem so much. It's because, yes, it's a personal letter, but it talks about something that's intrinsic. It talks about something that's to the core of human beings, that's life and death. And it's something that every single human at some point have thought about. It's something that's constantly on the human mind, and this makes us reflect about our place in the world. So that is my summary. That's my analysis of this work by Anne Bradstreet. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.